Imagine waking up in the middle of the night inside a tent on the side of a frozen mountain. It is minus 30 degrees outside. And instead of reaching for your boots, instead of grabbing your coat, you take a knife, cut a hole through the wall of your own tent, and run barefoot into the snow. 9 people did exactly that. Not one of them survived. And 65 years later, nobody can fully explain why they did it. On January 23rd, 1959, 10 young hikers set out from the town of Vizhai in the Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union. They were students and graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute, experienced winter trekkers, the kind of people who had survived freezing expeditions before. Their leader was a 23-year-old engineering student named Igor Dyatlov. The group included 7 men and 2 women. Their goal was to reach a mountain called Otorten. Its name, in the language of the local Mansi people, is sometimes translated as "don't go there." They did not know that yet. On the way, one member of the group, a man named Yuri Yudin, developed knee and joint pain so severe he could no longer continue. He turned back. He had no idea that decision would save his life.
The remaining 9 continued on skis into the wilderness. By all accounts, the early days of the trip were ordinary. Photographs recovered later show the group laughing, building snow shelters, posing for pictures, completely at ease. They sang songs around their stove at night. They wrote in a shared diary, jokes, complaints about the cold, small observations about the landscape. On February 1st, 1959, they began climbing the slope of a mountain the Mansi people called Kholat Syakhl, which translates, in their language, to Dead Mountain. They did not know that name either. Due to worsening weather and poor visibility, the group made a navigational mistake and ended up on the open slope of Kholat Syakhl, rather than in the shelter of the tree line below. Rather than descending in the dark to find better shelter, Dyatlov made the decision to set up camp directly on the slope. It was a small, survivable decision. It would turn out to be the only decision that mattered. They pitched their tent in the snow at approximately 5 in the afternoon. A photograph taken at this exact moment survived on a recovered camera roll. The last photograph ever taken of the group. They are smiling. They had no idea this was the last ordinary moment of their lives. The group was due to send a telegram confirming their safe return by February 12th. February 12th came and went. No telegram arrived. Search parties were not immediately alarmed. Delays were common on long winter expeditions. But by February 20th, with still no word, friends and family demanded a formal search. Volunteers, soldiers, and aircraft were sent into the Ural Mountains. On February 26, 1959, a search volunteer found the group's tent. It was still standing, partially collapsed under snow, on the open slope of Kholat Syakhl. What the searchers found inside, and what they did not find, would become the foundation of one of the most analyzed mysteries of the 20th century. The tent was cut open from the inside, not at the entrance flap, where anyone in a hurry would normally exit. Through the actual canvas wall, slashed open with a knife, the cut's large enough for a person to climb through. Inside the tent, searchers found the group's boots. All of them. Their coats, their food, their supplies. Almost everything a person would need to survive a freezing night in the mountains had been left behind, untouched, neatly arranged. Outside the tent, footprints were found in the snow.
Some were bare feet. Some were in socks. One set of prints appeared to be wearing only a single boot. The footprints led down the slope, away from the tent, toward a tree line more than a kilometer away. They did not run in different directions, as people fleeing in panic typically do. They moved together. Following the footprints down to the tree line, searchers found remains of a small fire beneath a large cedar tree. Near the fire, they found the first two bodies, Georgy Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko. Both were found wearing only their underwear. Both had died of hypothermia. The cedar tree itself showed something strange. Its branches had been broken off as high as 5 meters up the trunk, as though someone had been climbing it, perhaps trying to see something or escape from something on the ground. Further up the slope, between the cedar and the tent, 3 more bodies were found. Igor Dyatlov, the group's leader. Zinaida Kolmogorova. Rustam Slobodin. Their positions suggested they had died while trying to climb back up toward the tent, as though after fleeing downhill, they had changed their minds and tried to return. Slobodin's autopsy revealed a skull fracture. It was not considered severe enough to have killed him immediately. The official cause of death for all 5 bodies found at this stage was hypothermia. 5 bodies. 5 explanations that seemed, on the surface, almost ordinary. A panicked group caught in bad weather, freezing to death while trying to find shelter. Tragic. Explainable. Then, in May 1959, as the snow began to melt, searchers found the remaining 4 bodies, buried under 4 meters of snow in a ravine, further down the slope, hidden beneath a stream bed. What the autopsies revealed about these 4 would change everything. Nikolai Thibault-Brignol had a fractured skull. Lyudmila Dubinina and Semyon Zolotaryov both had severe chest fractures, the kind of injury, according to the original investigators, that would require the force equivalent to a car crash. Yet there were no external wounds on their skin, no bruising consistent with a blunt object. The internal damage was catastrophic. The external evidence was almost non-existent. And there was more. Lyudmila Dubinina was missing her tongue, her eyes, part of her lips, and facial tissue. Initial reports suggested animal scavenging, but forensic examiners later noted that the pattern of soft tissue loss was inconsistent with typical animal predation in the region. Some of the clothing on the final 4 bodies tested positive for radioactive contamination far above normal background levels. The Soviet investigators closed the case in May 1959. Their official conclusion stated that the hikers died as a result of, in their words, a compelling natural force. They did not specify what that force was. The files were sealed. For decades, theories multiplied to fill the silence the Soviet investigation left behind. Some pointed to an avalanche, though no clear avalanche debris was found, and the tent itself was barely disturbed by snow. Some pointed to a secret Soviet military weapons test in the area. Some pointed to the indigenous Mansi people, though investigators found no evidence of any external attack and no footprints other than the hikers' own. Some, inevitably, pointed to something stranger. Testimony from other groups camping in the same region that night, who independently reported seeing unexplained orange spheres of light in the sky. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the investigation for the first time in 60 years. In 2020, prosecutors announced their conclusion. An avalanche of a type called a slab avalanche had likely struck the tent, forcing the hikers to flee in panic without their equipment, after which exposure and a secondary snow-related impact caused their injuries.
In 2021, a study published in the journal Communications, Earth and Environment used physics modeling, partly inspired by techniques developed for Disney's animated film Frozen, to demonstrate that a small slab avalanche was physically possible on that slope, even without obvious surface evidence the next day. Many researchers now consider this the most scientifically supported explanation. Many of the victims' surviving relatives do not accept it.
They point to the missing tongue, the missing eyes, the radioactive clothing, the lack of avalanche debris, and the strange behavior of a group of experienced, rational hikers who did not simply flee. They cut their way out through the wall of their own tent rather than walk 3 steps to the entrance flap. Today, the mountain where it happened has been officially renamed. It is now called Dyatlov Pass, after the 23-year-old engineering student who led 9 people into the Ural Mountains in January 1959 and never came home.
9 people did everything right. They were experienced. They were prepared. They were careful. And on one ordinary, freezing February night, something happened that made every one of them choose a knife and a tent wall over their own boots. We have the bodies. We have the photographs. We have 65 years of forensic science, physics, and investigation. And we still do not fully know what they saw.